Hey guys, how you doing? Today we're going to be reviewing Batman The Long Halloween Part 1. This is a new animated DC film that came out recently, and Part 2 is set to come out at the end of July, I'm pretty sure, so really not that long away. Now, I'm not sure if you guys know, but The Long Halloween is one of the most iconic Batman comics created quite a while ago that no one really knows about because, let's be honest, there isn't a huge reading base of comics in this era. There's just not. It's all about the films and the TV shows. So this DC animated film will be introducing a lot of people to this storyline and hopefully engaging them in one of the best, one of the best stories told back in comics. So this film had a lot to live up to and a lot to pay off. Now, does it hold to the quality that you'd want it to engage a whole new audience to this story? Yes, it does. This film is once again one of DC's stronger animated films. They do such a good job. Recently, there have been some average ones. Hush, I actually thought was quite good, but it wasn't great. It was enjoyable, but wasn't their best by far. Batman and Harley Quinn was terrible. There have been a few mediocre ones recently. So it's great to see that they haven't lost their heads. They've really focused, they haven't panicked, and they've just produced another great piece of art that really uses actual different way of animating. Like, this style of animation is very different to, like, say, Batman Under the Red Hood. Now, I won't lie to you. I guarantee you it will be fine. If you choose to watch this, you will get used to this style. You will get used to this animation, as I did. But if you compare it to a film like Into the Spider-Verse, that came out back in 2018, that animation style I got used to, but then I loved it. I got used to that animation style and then loved it. This animation style you get used to, like I did, but I didn't love it. I would have preferred the animation style of, say, Batman Under the Red Hood. I just think it works better. That's just me. It's just opinions, but I'm giving my opinion. So yeah, don't really have a problem with the animation style. It's just annoying for me as my own personal opinion that it's not like Batman Under the Red Hood's animation style, but whatever. Now, I only realised that this was a comic storyline when I was watching reviews for this film after I'd seen it, because I wanted to see everyone else's opinion. I wouldn't have had a clue. So from part one, what I get is this film is basically about someone that kills on holidays. That is literally their thing. And we get to see transitions from each holiday to holiday in this film that leave certain clues, certain obvious clues, and certain harder to decode type stuff. And this is where we finally get to see Batman do some detective work. This is what his character has been. The DCEU, as much as I love them films, have not really given the chance for Batman to be that detective guy. In Batman v Superman, we got one little subplot, where he had to go to LexCorp to decode that, and he actually got outsmarted by Wonder Woman. That should never happen, but I get it, it's what they had to do to get her involved and blah blah blah. Yeah, we get that, but this film finally gives us some Batman detective work, which I really appreciated, because I think he is, like, the greatest detective superhero, if done right, if done accurately to the comics, and they do it here. It's great. There's a scene where he goes to Arkham, and we get to see all of these obscure villains that you would never really usually pay attention to, and he has this really great interaction with Calendar Man. I know, Calendar Man, like, I don't get how this has been made, but whatever. Somehow, the sidekick in Ant-Man, who's one of Scott Lang's friends, I forget his name, but he does the voice work, and he does amazing. This just proves how much animation in film, animated films, are underutilized and underrated, because voice work is very, very key, and it can make or break one of these films. And this scene could have easily been laughable, stupid, just boring, but the voice work for this character of Calendar Man is done so well that it really gives this great interaction with him and Batman, where they're going back and forth. Calendar Man is sort of under the skin and in his head, and really playing with him, because he obviously knows the information, otherwise Batman wouldn't be there. And Batman's getting frustrated, and then suddenly he gives this last clue, and we all know what that means, and that introduces the Joker to the plot. Now, Joker is being used a lot recently, and it is annoying that he's being used so much, because I don't want him to burn out. The same reason with Star Wars, you can't just do Darth Vader stuff over and over again. You have to hand it out in little tiny pieces so that we don't get too full up on it, and then we're just bored of it, because that's the last thing you want. But I excuse it in this film because he is a main part of the original comic line and the original story. So he actually has a purpose to be in this film, and I am glad to say he's handled spectacularly. This Joker is great. The voice work, although it isn't Mark Hamill, it is very, very similar, like extremely similar. And I believe Harvey Dent is voiced by the same guy who was the dad in Jupiter's Legacy. He was also one of the army guy in the first 2007 Transformers film. Harvey Dent is great in this film. His interactions with specifically Batman and Commissioner Gordon, I'm pretty sure, yeah, that's right. His interactions are great. He has a really interesting character, and there's a specific part in this. Now, obviously, you know the outcome of this if you have seen that comic book line. I hadn't seen this story yet. So there's this specific style of film that they do after this massive explosion at his house, and they continuously only show one half of his face. I'm like, well, that's it. They're teasing it. He's already got the, he's already burnt the other side of his face off. But no, they really do well with camera work in animation to really trick you into believing that, and they really play on that for quite a while. Not overuse it, just use it enough, and then finally reveal that he's just got a few bruises and he's fine, but keep leaving hints that is he becoming more senile, is he becoming more psychopathic, and is he the murderer that they've been trying to get. That is really good storytelling in this film, and they leave his character really at an interesting place for part 2. I cannot wait. Now, there's also this mobster storyline that's very key to the final act of this film. That is quite interesting. You get this family dynamic of this person in this family that really went to Oxford, isn't viewed as strong, and he hates this. I believe it's his father, really hates him for this, thinking that he's smarter than him because he is the main guy. He is the leader of this mob group. So that family interaction scenes throughout the film are really hard to watch, really painfully sad, because all he wants is his father's affection, and he just will never get it because his father's so struck in his own point of view and is so arrogant that he just can't see the bigger picture, and that his son is actually probably the best to continue this family's line. He's the most intelligent, he just doesn't realise it and doesn't want to pay attention to it. So this leads Batman to believe, well, here's all of the obvious, easiest way out of this whole case, is that it has to be this guy. Which is great to see that Batman is a human. He's a human, he's flawed. He can make a mistake, and it's set up really well in this film so that we believe that it's this character as well, because every single point adds up. That's just great storytelling. So after Batman confronts him, I believe he gets shot by the actual holiday killer, who is also on this boat that they're on, and he dies, and it leaves Batman at a place of sadness and sort of guilt over the fact that this was sort of his fault because he confronted the wrong person and couldn't stop him from dying. So I like that plays on his character's emotions a bit, and it's hard to see because we're so used to Batman being the guy. He doesn't lose, he always thinks his way out of a situation. So yeah, the real holiday killer escapes, and this leaves me so excited for part 2. Part 2 is going to be amazing. It comes out next month. I implore you to watch this film, and then you'll be just as excited as me for that next film. Now, if you don't want to know about the after credit scene, I have just spoiled loads for the film. Sorry about that. I should have mentioned that, but I will talk about the after credit scene. So Bruce Wayne is actually friends. He knows the mobster, the head of the mobsters, and they interact at this funeral. They know each other because Thomas Wayne, Bruce's dad, used to be friends with him before he obviously died, and they used to be quite close. So Bruce and him interact. The mobster at the start of the film was trying to get Bruce on his side, trying to get him to supply for him and just help him out. Obviously, Bruce doesn't want that. He's not about that, so he says no. Well, at the end of the funeral, he also says no. The mobster introduces him to a certain Poison Ivy, who will be, obviously, in part 2, as we know now. And she enchants Bruce, because obviously at this moment in time, he wouldn't have a clue. She had a hat over her head. She's disguised, he gets enchanted, and that leaves it there. Great storytelling, great after credit scene, and just an amazing film. So yeah, I'd give Batman The Long Halloween Part 1 a 9 out of 10. This is great. There's a few bits that are a bit jagged. I'm not the biggest fan of the animation style. That's a nitpick though. There's only a few scenes that just drag on a little bit. There's a lot of talking in this film. I believe one of the reasons it's not a 10 out of 10 is the relationship between Harvey Dent and his girlfriend. It's just left at this weird, like, they build up this sort of tension between them, and that, you know, it's not going in the right place, and then they just sort of leave it. So I wonder, maybe that's just because they're going to carry it on in part 2, and we'll see the descent of Harvey Dent and his turn into Two-Face. But yeah, for this film, you have to look at it as its own thing, and they sort of left it unresolved. But other than that, this film is fantastic. I implore you to go watch it. Like, subscribe, leave a comment of what you think of the film, and yeah, see you in the next one. Bye, guys.